Hello, and welcome again to Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. Today is August 6th, 2018, and we're here again in Sacramento, California with Lee and Eddie Cervantes. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. How about you, Eddie?
I'm doing good. I just got back from 3 days in fires up in the Mendocino Valley.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And, the family that I was with, the guy I was with, his parents had to be moved into town in Ukiah to their sister's house. Not through mandatory, but just precautionary stuff. And it's just amazing, all the fires going all around the state. But we managed to get in a fundraiser round of golf for the Mendocino College baseball team.
Oh, that's awesome.
And but back here,
bad air. I mean, Steve usually opens the show by saying, "Welcome to sunny Sacramento." I mean, it ain't sunny Sacramento now; it's smoky Sacramento.
amazing,
I think
amazing.
it's smoky all over California, and of course, a lot of people suffering from those fires. But we're going to try to have a little bit of fun in light of that today and talk about baseball a little bit more.
Yeah,
So,
that's what we do best. I think that's what we are here for, and that's what we want to share with the listeners out there. And I thought today, Steve and Eddie, I was watching something on the news or ESPN, and they were talking about how pitchers are pitching high, and they're because it kind of offsets that theory that they've been preaching so much this year and been promoting so much, talking about launch angle, and they showed some examples of a lot of hitters, and I know it was a montage of one pitch strikeouts and a lot probably spread out over a period of time, but it showed a lot of guys striking out on balls that were extremely out of the strike zone. And I don't like the idea of saying, okay, you're going to give a pitcher credit for getting strikeouts on throwing pitches that are completely out of the strike zone. That doesn't go to the effectiveness of a pitcher. It goes to the lack of discipline to a hitter.
Absolutely.
Or lack of fundamentals. And it's something that I just wanted to talk about because, being a hitting guy, and we're always separating in today's game with technology, terminology, sabermetrics, analytics, not to say anything is right or wrong. It's just the fact that there's a different game out there now. And I'm just not so sure I'm real happy seeing hitters learning how to hit with launch angle, so to speak, or pitchers learning how to strike out hitters on balls that are over their heads that we were taught just simply don't swing at.
Right.
It's kind of it's a different outlook out there now. It's a very ineffective game because even in our day, if we swung at a Don Drysdale fastball over our head with launch angle or not, you were going to strike out. And the strikeouts are at an unprecedented high right now. And you cannot convince me that a strikeout is a good thing. It's part of the game. But, when you look at stats of a lot of the Hall of Famers or a lot of players that played in the days of old, putting the ball in play was an effective thing. It made the defense play. And guys were striking out. High numbers were in the 70s, 60s, and 70s for strikeouts, not 150 and 200. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I think it's actually gotten, for me, it's gotten frustrating.
Yes.
It's been frustrating watching some of this stuff on TV and even live, and I've noticed kind of what you're talking about as far as the high. But when they go high, they definitely go high out of the zone. I mostly see it, and maybe you're probably seeing, you just happen to be seeing more of that high stuff than the low. I'm seeing a lot of chasing of low pitches in the dirt in front of the plate, and I think that was the initial thought process when you're talking about producing, when these hitting coaches are producing the uppercut swing, was to be able to hit that low pitch and lift it.
Right.
But it's turned into just one swing now. Now everything is lifted. And, when you talk about putting the ball in play, we were taught that, and there was a reason for it. It's because, like you said, make the defense make the play. If you strike out, boom, the at-bat's over. If you put it in play, the infielder has to catch it. He has to make a good throw. First baseman has to glove it, and he has to secure it. Well, now, if you've got that uppercut swing and you hit a fly ball that isn't a home run, all the outfield has to do is catch it,
Exactly.
and that's it.
Exactly.
And so there's, what are the percent? Baseball, I thought, was a game of percentages. And that's what we were taught, and that's what you learn. The more you play it and the more you teach it and strategize it, you realize that there's definitely a strategy of percentages there that I think you're going away from that with all that.
I do. I think that, and not to mention, just a high ball. I think, from a defensive standpoint, when we coached or when we saw a hitter, a rare hitter sometime that had the big lift in their swing, you pitch a high fastball up, a pitcher throws a high ball up, and he swings and misses it. Well, logically, you say, well, climb the ladder.
Sure.
Stay up there if he's going to swing at it. But it was kind of it wasn't the norm when you ran into a hitter like that. So that was a theory we used. But now you see way more hitters using that upper swing and the uppercut swing, and they're being taught that. And that's one of the things the problems that I have is that you have a lot of instructors or batting coaches using theories of launch angles and different terminology. I'm hearing terminology I don't think I've ever heard before from hitting coaches. And I think it's almost like I feel like the young hitters are getting cheated, because at no time in their careers, from little league all the way up through high school, college, and in the pro ball now, it's become normal for them not to do anything unless a coach tells them what to do, instead of learning how to establish their own natural way of going to the plate and approaching. Part of it is physical, a lot of it is mental.
Approach.
The approach, but hitters aren't being taught to learn how to think for themselves, so there's no mental approach. It's just go to the plate, think about the mechanic, and then if it happens, and I've talked to a lot of young players, well, I'm not accountable for the strikeout because the coach told me to hit that way. The coach told me to run to second base and get thrown out. It's not my fault, it's the coach's fault. So we're teaching a whole different brand of players. Instead of being able to play their natural game, they're playing a mechanical game.
Well, as part of that, and I don't know, correct me if at that level, at the major league level, is it now a regular practice to have a game philosophy prior to the game? In other words, okay, we know who the starting pitcher is going to be against us that night. Our coach is coming in and saying, "Hey guys, look, we're going to take more pitches. We're going to take that low pitch. This guy he wants to make you chase more. He's going to throw that breaking pitch in the dirt more. Take that pitch. Make him bring that pitch up and see what happens. Or we're going to go out and we're going to hit first pitch strikes. And so sometimes that plays into what you're talking about.
Yeah, it does. And then you don't see a lot of teams taking in and out before games to get loose or do things. They're having meetings about who to shift. This hitter, we're going to play the shift. We're going to we're going to pitch this guy up in the zone. Well, you already know ahead of time this guy's going to swing at high strikes. Well, what if he doesn't?
Right.
Exactly. You're playing. The coaches in the big leagues now, the manager, are literally calling pitches, which is something I never thought I'd see. I thought it was bad enough at the high school level that coaches call pitches from pitchers, but now you see it throughout the minor leagues and the major league level because the players expect it. How do you get the game back to a point where players, to me, the game is just simply not fun unless you can think for yourself. I mean, it's like I was raised knowing how to butter my toast.
Right.
I don't need a coach come telling me how to butter my toast. I like my toast the way I butter it. And the same way with hitting. We used to go out and park and hit and throw rocks up and hit rocks and play wiffle ball and play lemon ball and tennis ball, and we didn't. What fun would it be if somebody came and told us how we got to hit? I'd just put my bat down and leave.
Yeah.
So how would we? You guys mentioned about the style of hitting kind of changing with chasing pitches up high, chasing pitches that are down in the dirt. How would you approach teaching or correcting those mistakes?
Well, I would, Steve. allow kids or encourage kids at young age when we were growing up before we got gray hair. When we were real young, going out there playing pickup ball, we swung at everything. We swung anything we saw, we swung. I would teach kids to do that at the lower levels, to have fun, to go out and play and try to find out what you can and can't. The only way you're going to learn is by swinging at a lot of bad balls. But you go out there now and swing at a bad ball, that coach is, "What are you doing? You can't swing at that pitch." And they're getting punished. And now instead of becoming aggressive hitters, they're becoming defensive hitters. So the only way you can learn instinctively and naturally to not swing at a high ball is swing at a whole lot of them when you're young. Because after a while, you've learned when you're 10 years old that you can't hit that fastball up in the high zone. I don't care if it's 60 mile an hour or 90 mile an hour. That may not fit your swing because you're taught to try to drive the ball through people, past people, not necessarily over people. But now they're teaching hitters how to hit the ball over people. And, at the same time being very defensive at the plate. And you just cannot, to me, it's impossible to enjoy an at-bat if you're made to do a certain way.
So you're going back to coaching the individual. A great example of that, like when you said teaching a kid to swing at everything when they're young. Well, maybe they can hit things out of the zone like a Yogi Berra.
That's right. Vladimir Guerrero's in the Hall of Fame.
Vladimir Guerrero.
Because he didn't wait for a perfect pitch down the middle.
Right.
We had a kid named Corey Patterson out of Atlanta. He was a first-round draft pick. I mean, he was a really good high ball hitter. He really was. For a left-hand hitter, he hit the ball high. A-ball, he hit 22 or 23 home runs in A-ball. And he was a free swinger. He went to AA, hit another 20-plus home runs. He went to AAA, hit another 20-plus home runs. And he wasn't a big guy, good center fielder, left-hand hitter. And he got to the big leagues, and they said, "We're going to teach him how to be a leadoff hitter, and you better not swing at that high ball." And we went out to dinner one time, and I said, "Corey," I said, what's going on? He goes, "Well, they keep yelling at me not to swing at the high ball, and I've hit the high ball my whole life. So now I'm up there, and I'm trying to be defensive, and mentally he's going through a crisis here because he's got 4 or 5 guys on our major league staff that are batting coaches all of a sudden. Even our manager, Don Baylor at the time, told me, he said, well, he was going to end up back. He was going to back a little bit. Billy Williams, who's one of the greatest hitters of all time, he was an outfield coach, but he wanted to teach him how to hit. Jeff Pentland, who was the actual batting coach for the big league club, really was the only one. He wanted him to learn how to hit the ball the other way more if he was going to be a letter, and then bunt more. But he'd never bunted hardly 1 or 2 times in the minor leagues. So they got him in the big leagues, and they go, okay, now we're going to teach him how to play small ball, bunt, hit the other way, and stay off the high ball. Well, when he started staying off the high ball, he couldn't hit anything.
It's just not his game.
It wasn't his game. They took his complete game away. And that's what I'm saying now is you're teaching, you have to know the individual you're working with. And also, if that kid has that passion for it, you got to figure sometime when he's going to go to the plate, it has nothing to do with mechanics. It has something to do with his heart and his passion. And he's saying, hey, you're not getting me out today, period. Let that kid play. Don't pull him off to the side. Hey, the reason you popped out is you turned your hand over and your elbow went up and you got to hit your feet. Can't hit with your feet like that. You got to you got to do squash the bug. You got to go Ike the Mike. You can't do that. You got to let the kid just think what he knows because everybody doesn't receive that information the same way. And now we are literally seeing it at the big league level. That's what I'm saying.
And that speaks to the fact that they're getting there. They're learning this prior to.
Yes.
They're learning this in college. They're already being taught in college these new techniques, these new mechanics on how to lift the ball. It has a lot to do, I think, with grip.
Yeah.
How their hands are gripping the bat, as far as how the wrists and whatever, how that works. I don't want to try and get into detail without it being visual right here. But so, in other words, it speaks to once you get up to that major league level, I mean, like Leon says, you got to be able to just be allowed to play your game.
That's right.
If that's
Big leaguer
the
now.
case. The only problem with that right now is that there's a lot of kids getting up there having learned that one swing, that lifting uppercut swing to create launch angle, to hit the ball, more long balls. So, like Leon expressed initially, you got to start where they're young. And how do you do it? And like you said, get them to swing at everything. But get them to understand that if you're going to swing at the high pitch, what do you have to do to make that thing come off the bat at a level plane as opposed to just hitting a high pop-up? And then you start learning. Once you put that in perspective with learning the strike zone, now you're going to try and lay off that high pitch. But how do I use the bat effectively by hitting the ball where it's pitched? And that's how you work. That's how you work. But what's that going to take? That's going to take changing the lower levels and teaching them. You get them to learn, and then now there's going to be a fight at the college because somebody's going to want to change them. Somebody's going to want to change them.
But see, I don't want to say that you teach a kid, say every time a pitcher throws the ball, I don't want to be misunderstood, say just swing at everything thrown. It's not about that, but you should have the freedom to feel like if I see it well enough, I could swing, because how you learn discipline at the plate is from experience.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
And that's what you're saying there. And that's the thing that I have a problem with is that you see coaches, and I've seen junior college coaches have their whole team out on the field, and they're all going through the same routine, practicing their swing, breaking their knee down, do this, swing the same way. And they're making every hitter hit in one certain way. But if you look at guys like Hank Aaron, you look at Willie Mays, you look at Mickey Mantle. I know these are older hitters, and you come right down the line to Griffey Jr., Orlando Cepeda, Roberto Clemente. Okay, now you're teaching. You can't stride into the ball like that. Well, Roberto Clemente did.
So did Hank Aaron.
So did Hank Aaron. Way out there on his front foot. I hit a lot of home runs, and I have pictures. I didn't hit them off my, with my back foot in the air, but my momentum after I made contact, I had the picture showing my back foot completely off the ground on that particular pitch. So what I'm saying is there's no absolutes. There's no certain way. Every hitter should have the right. And we all make adjustments. Pitchers aren't just going to sit up there and let us plug in there and hit home runs or line drives. We got to make adjustments. But the only way you're going to be a good hitter, I'm convinced, the only way you're going to be the hitter that go home every night and go to sleep and feel good about yourself is that you went up there and had your at-bats, not somebody else's.
Yeah, and to get to the point of the older players, last night I watched a PBS special on Ted Williams.
Yes.
And it was showing a lot of his swings in the games and in batting practice. And one thing that I quickly recognized as different in today's swings, and it was like this with Hank Aaron too, was the way he used his wrist almost throwing the bat at the ball.
Exactly.
I mean, the bat just...
like a whip.
It whipped it through, throwing the barrel at the ball wherever the ball was. And Hank Aaron did that. And I don't see that with today's swings. And it goes back to what you're saying, Eddie, about the grip. It seems more like a sweep than throwing the head.
Using the arms in your swing.
You're using the arms, and there's less wrist. Am I wrong? Or
no, you're not. You only hit between your hands and your elbow, your forearms. The forearm areas is where, Hank Aaron used to train by swinging a sledgehammer. That's why they nicknamed him the Hammer. Hammer and Hank. He didn't lift weights. You see a lot of kids are in the gym now. Weights are not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. We never lifted them because we had the perception. We were told that weightlifting was bad for you. And it was if you didn't know what you were doing, because if you build a bulky chest, it's not good for a hitter because now you're trying to swing the bat around your chest. But you see a lot of baseball players now, they have these great bodies, but they have no flexibility. And so now they're so used to using their upper body in their swing because of the weights, I think, because all these muscles, I mean, they look great on the beach. I mean, these muscles, I call them mirror muscles. They look great in the mirror, but it doesn't necessarily make you a better hitter, because good hitting takes not only ability to track a ball and keep yourself soft and loose, but then to react with really good timing in your hands, not so much your body. It's hard to control that whole body.
So is that another reason why we see the chasing, or they're
absolutely.
not able to adjust?
And why? Because
No question.
Now if you're using your hands and wrists and forearms, those are smaller muscles, and they're called fast twitch muscles.
Yes.
And those create that explosiveness that you were talking about, that pop that we used to call it. It was called
pop.
that pop, where the bat explodes through the zone. It starts at a certain speed and then it flies through on contact. Well, now, like you said, it seems like the bat is sweeping through at one speed, and so what happens with that swing is you have to start it sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to start it sooner. And you'll see the bat carriage, when you have these bats being wrapped around back behind the ear, behind the head. Well, they have to get it started. Sure, now once you connect, and if you've guessed right, and most of the time they're not recognizing the pitch as it's en route. What's happening is they're seeing it on a plane, and then they are starting their swing, and that's why the ball ends up in the dirt, and they can't at that point stop their swing.
But and I'll tell you another thing, Eddie, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a great shortstop. I mean, we always talk about that first step quickness, being able to get to a ball, and part of that means having that ability to read a ball off a bat. And there's a lot of great major league defensive players that are trained to read balls off bats. Well, with today's swing, when you get that big, long, sweeping kind of sweep and swing, a good defensive player is reading that ball off the bat, and they actually get effective moves off the bat, reading the ball off. But if you had guys like a Hank Aaron, some of these guys, the great hitters, and those hands they're right there, and all of a sudden that hand goes snap.
Yeah.
And the defensive guy literally flinches. Now, when a defensive player, if your hands are so quick and that ball comes off the bat and the defensive takes a flinch, that's 10 extra hits a year of them being able to get in rhythm. And because the baseball is a rhythm game, it's a flow game. So when the ball's coming off the bat, the good Andrew Jones in center field looked like he was always in motion before the ball was even hit. But not against some guys. Because when that ball came off of there real sharp and he flinched,
Absolutely.
He lost a whole step in getting to the ball.
Absolutely.
So those hits, that defensive guy, if I can hit a ball past Eddie and I made him flinch, see, 99.9%, if he was able to read that ball off my bat, he catches that ball. So that's that extra 10 to 12, 13 hits a year that turns the batting average around from 280 to 310. You see, and it's a big thing with their team. You know, some of the big swings that I see now, I wasn't a really fast guy, but if I could read a ball off the bat, I get a jump on it. I make that play.
I think that makes it easier to do shifts because of the swing types.
It does.
Absolutely.
It makes it easier to do shifts.
Yeah.
You can read them.
Yeah, they know. I was
It's a little more
surprised.
predictable.
I went to my first major league game in a bunch of years. I had been to, I think last year I was at one River Cats game. Of course, Leon, you were broadcasting over there, so you saw a lot of it. But I was at the A's game, and there it is. I mean, for certain hitters, that shortstop, what he does is he plays the deep position in right field on the right side for a lefty, and then the second baseman moves over behind second base. And then with the righty that they're shifted in, and what that second baseman is, he's on the right side. I take that back. He's on the shortstop side of second base, just barely. And then for the righty, he dropped second baseman, comes back to the second base side, but just barely on that almost straightaway center, and then the shortstop comes back to deep short.
Right.
You know, and it's just like this. And I'm going, oh man, what? And half the time they're beating it.
Yeah.
half the time you get a ground ball that goes through. And so I don't know what apparently the percentages are working for the shift.
For left-hand hitters, I think mostly
more
lefties hit into the shift. But I think just play the game. I think
I agree.
And you know, all the years that I played in Japan, and I'll bring this up, I guarantee if you went over and watched Japanese baseball now, you would not see anybody in a shift. And I'll tell you why. What I was just talking about, the Japanese hitters hitting away, they have it's kind of almost a nationwide theory, and I learned that early in Japan. The timing, they have a term for it. It's like slow, 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 quick. Slow, 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 quick. And you see a lot of the Japanese hitters, when they hold a bat, they're more hands conscious. Have you ever seen you see them more, their hands are a little bit more out front.
Exactly.
And they just time their hands back and everything is, pow, it's a quick snap.
For bat control.
Bat control. And it's a great thing to watch. And the way they could hit behind runners, the way they could bunt. Great bat control. You know, I could go through some of the greatest hitters. Even Sadahara, the greatest home run hitter. He had the flamingo style. And his hands, he used his bat. He had the samurai style, where it was like he would practice with a samurai sword. And when his bat came down through the zone, it was just like when his foot went down, that bat was there. I mean, it was like boom, boom.
Absolutely.
You know, we had guys in Kinogasa. This one kid, he just recently passed away. God bless his soul. But he's the one broke Cal Ripken's consecutive game record. Never missed a game for, I don't think, his whole career. But I don't care. He wasn't fatigued or anything, but his hands were so quick that when you're playing defense on him, it's almost like you're in that defensive position. Just in case he hits it to me, I got to really be ready.
Well, and that's produced, like you said, that using the hands in a whipping action. What happens is you can hit an inside pitch, you can pull it, or sometimes even because for whatever reason, you reacted just a hair slower. Mm-hmm. And so now you're pulling those hands through to try and get the barrel of the bat, as much barrel on that bat. And that could either go up the middle or even sometimes push to the right side.
Exactly
even
right.
though it's an inside pitch. And the same with a pitch away from you a little bit. You can hook it. You can hook it. Or maybe you just recognize a little bit later and you just, boom, you drive it the other way.
That's right.
And so that type of swing, and that's why an infielder isn't able to recognize as easily, like Leon was saying, with the swings of today.
Exactly. And you know, I always say a good hitter puts the ball on the barrel, and if the barrel happens to be angled toward right, it'll go to right. If it goes to center, it goes to center. If it pulls, you pull it. Just hit it on the barrel.
How many times do you hear a broadcaster when the guy hits a line drive foul, he's trying to go to right field?
Yeah, he's trying to go to right.
He wasn't trying to go to right field. He just got beat, and he's lucky to foul it off.
Exactly right.
So are we, do you think we're fighting the analytic analysis a little bit with the way the game? It looks like it seems like they're teaching towards what they're analyzing, or the number. They're teaching to the numbers instead of teaching to the individual.
I think that excuse me, I forgot to turn my phone off.
Distraction.
Yeah, it's okay. That's right. That's why we're doing
the
live radio.
Analytics, I think, to a large degree, is necessary in the game. It's a fun game. I think analytics should be fun to write about, to analyze. I don't think it should be used as a teaching tool. I don't think it should be used as a way to determine. I think you can use them for stats and information. It's good for scouts, but I just don't think you should use analytics as a teaching tool or sabermetrics to say we're going to play a shift, or we're going to hit a certain way. If your bat goes at this angle, you got a higher percentage of hitting the ball out of the ballpark. You know, Dave Winfield swung almost dead down on the ball, and he hit a ball out of the ballpark that almost took the left fielder's head off. You know, it's nothing wrong with hitting a line drive out of the ballpark, you know, not to hit high fly balls. If Dave Winfield, being 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", was up there like Dave Kingman hitting, launching high fly balls, he wouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame. You know, so to me, I fight analytics because I just think the game is a beautiful game if it's played instinctively. When Moneyball came out and they said the stolen base wasn't a big part of scoring runs or affecting the game, well, baseball's entertainment. I used to love watching Ricky Henderson steal a bag. I used to love to watch Maury Wills and Lou Brock steal bags. I think it's a huge part of the game. I don't think you should go out there and just run stupid.
Right.
But if you could steal a bag, I love runners going from first to third on a base hit. That's exciting. Fans are off their feet. You know, they pay a lot of money to go in there. They want to see Deion Sanders steal second base. Not to say, oh, it's technical, well, you don't want to run. I see more players now with balls bouncing in the dirt, hitting the catcher in the chest, bouncing 10 feet away from the catcher, and the runner still sitting there at first base. Next guy gets a base hit, which normally would have been a run scored, and nobody says a word. Well, you better not run because you might get thrown out. Well, how exciting is that? The law of averages say you're going to get thrown. No, it's not. Well, if I got a 20% chance to get to second in a tough situation, I think a game the other day, it was 2 outs late in the ball game, and the guy get thrown out at second base, got called safe, great steal. Instant replay, the guy touched him on the foot right before his hand got to the bag on a head first slide. Reverse. They overturned the call. Reverse. Terrible play. He never should have stole second base.
Well, yeah, you know, when you talk about excitement, shoot, that home run, hey, boy, he hits it, boom, crack of the bat, it goes, and depending on how deep it goes, there's excitement, sure, that people like that, boom, but it's over. It's like fireworks. You shoot up a fireworks, boom, it explodes, it's over with at that. But now you get a base hit, you get a guy crack one into the gap with a runner on first base, and now into that left center alley, and you got that center fielder trying to cut it off, and the runner's now got to figure out, can I go to third? Well, if you're watching all this develop, man, and then all of a sudden there's a throw and a slide and a tag on a close play, now that's excitement.
That's baseball.
That's excitement. Now it's developing in front of you. It's kind of like, let me just throw this in there. Years ago, I'm playing up in Portland, and on an off day, the Portland Timbers soccer team was in town, playoffs. And they were playing the team from St. Louis Blues, whatever. And it was a playoff game. I had seen just a few games of soccer on TV at that point in my young years and thought it was boring, more boring than watching. And I'd like to make a comment about baseball on TV. But more boring, like I said, than baseball on TV, but because you can't see everything. And when I was up, we got tickets to go to the game, and I was able to see, sitting there, you watch the flow. There's a flow that goes when they move the ball around, and the defense will give, and they'll come and attack, and it was interesting to see that flow. Well, there's some excitement there that I never knew was involved in soccer. Well, it's the same thing with baseball. You want to see things happening, and for watching it on TV, I've been noticing this lately, is why don't they show, even if it's just, one time per batter or 2 times per batter, show an angle that shows where are everybody playing?
Right.
Where's everybody stay? What do they do?
Yeah.
They'll pan to the on-deck circle. They'll pan to somebody in the stands. They'll pan to the coach in the dugout. They'll pan to the ball girl down the sidelines. They'll pan but what are they showing of the alignment, of the positioning of the players,
exactly,
and everything? I think that's what will give you some perspective if you're watching it on TV. It might get more people to watch it on TV because you know what? Baseball can be boring.
Yeah.
Watching it on TV.
I used to watch some replays of some of the 50s World Series games, like between Yankees and Dodgers in the 50s, and the only camera angle was from up behind home plate. So the whole game was broadcast as you saw the whole field.
Right.
I thought it was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Not too bad. Exactly.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I got to see Mickey Mantle his first step immediately on a ball hit. You
Right.
get to see all the
Right.
fielders just in motion,
It's in motion.
as the pitch is being thrown. And I thought it was
And for kids watching, you tell them, go watch a ball game and see how these on television. But they don't show that on television, like Eddie said.
Right.
To me, it gets. And real quick before, I think we'll roll this one up here, but I remember being at a major league game when my son was playing for the Padres. He got called up to the big leagues, and they were playing Cincinnati. And I knew Deion Sanders really well from the years past, and he was in the big leagues with Cincinnati. He knew I was in town. He walks, so he's at first base talking to Derek during the game, and I could see him talking, and Derek pointed up to me. I'm right behind the dugout on the first base side. So Deion looks up at me during the game. He's a showboat now, and he knows it, but he looked at me and did like this, pointed right in front of all these fans, and then pointed down to second base. He was broadcasting to me and everybody in the ballpark that he was getting ready to steal second. There was no secret in that situation. There are really no secrets in baseball, really. You get a pitcher at the plate with nobody out and men on first and second, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to bunt. You don't have to give a bunt sign. But Deion, everybody was on the edge of their seat because they're looking back at me. And the fans are like, what in the world's Deion Sanders doing? He's pointing down he's looking at me and he's pointing down to second. I'm getting ready to steal second. The pitcher got the word. He tried to pick him off, couldn't, a couple times. Next pitch stole. As soon as he took off, the fans went berserk. Mm-hmm. He steals the bag easy.
Yeah.
And jumps up on the bag. He looks right over toward me, and I'm standing up doing like this with my hands in the air, and he points up there at me. And everybody going, what in the world? He broadcast it. If it was on national television, the whole country knew he was about to steal, and they still couldn't throw him out. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the exciting part of the play. I mean, if I got Eddie as short, I'm going to highlight, please hit a ball to shortstop. Hit a ball to Ozzie. Hit a ball to Vizquel. We want to see those guys make a play. Well, how can they make a play if 90% of the guys are striking out?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But anyway, that's a great conversation, and I know we're getting at our time, and we're going to wind it down. But this is it's a topic that we could talk forever. I love to get some feedback from people to, keep it on, because I'm in the frame of mind. I'm a little bit of a rebel. I don't think I'm alone. People call it old school. I call it baseball. I think baseball is a game that was designed to be played, not to be analyzed too much or overcoached. I think it's just a game that kids need to go out and have fun playing.
Absolutely.
I think we're all on the same page here, Leon. So I think we'll end this one for now. And again, the podcast site is talkingbaseballwithleonlee.podbean.com. And please send us your comments and questions at our email address, talkingbaseballwithleonlee@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you all again soon.